Solid. All right. So for everyone watching the recording, today we're going to be talking about training. Strength and aesthetics is the name of the presentation. And obviously, a lot of people have gone through my presentation about training in general, right? So strength and aesthetics, I call it that obviously because we want to get strong, be strong. Be strong, look strong. And the foundations of looking strong and being strong are a little different compared to just doing either or. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into how I combine them. And then if anyone has any questions in the middle of it, let me know. So quick agenda. What is hypertrophy? What is volume? What is progressive overload? What is strength? Phases of movement, RPE versus RIR, body mechanics, and that's about it. And there's probably going to be a lot of like subtopics in the middle of it. So what is hypertrophy? Hypertrophy is the basis of bodybuilding and growing muscles in the most effective way possible. So when people say they train for hypertrophy and not strength, it's actually counterintuitive because you need to get stronger to actually build muscle. So for example, when you see people that are lifting the same weights and they're not seeing any differences in their body, that's the main reason they don't grow muscle, because you need to actually challenge your body. Hypertrophy / bodybuilding training style involves less heavy compounds and stays within the 8 to 20 rep range. And it's pretty broad, but a little bit higher rep range. Training volume is the total amount weight lifted for a session for the entire week. I look at weeklies. Obviously, you guys know that I like to zoom out with calories, with volume, with your mindset. It's very helpful to zoom out to make sure that you are in the right perspective. So volume is basically the amount of sets that you do for every muscle group, the amount of reps that you do, and the weight. So it's all that multiplied. And in Trainer Eyes, they have this cool little thing. I guess I'll show you when you guys do your check-in. They have this cool little thing where I can see your volume on a weekly and even 6-month basis, and I can see if you're getting stronger, if the trend looks like it's going up, or if it's kind of maintaining. Optimal training volume is key for hypertrophy as it increases mechanical tension and metabolic stress on the muscles. That was a lot of words. So mechanical tension, meaning like mechanical tension is the amount of weight that your body can handle, because the more weight, the more tension there is on your muscles. And metabolic stresses on the muscles are kind of the same thing, but now it refers to like the metabolism, the biomechanics, or not the biomechanics, the biological side of the stresses that start to, like the metabolic stresses, the metabolic adaptations that you need to overcome to get stronger, if that makes sense. Higher volumes can lead to greater fatigue, so we want to avoid overtraining. For sure, there are a lot of people that have been kind of through that. Overtraining is real, especially when, for example, I use this example a lot. New year, new me people, they go into the new year and they go hard for like, I don't know, 2-3 months, and they're not recovering, or they don't stay consistent, or they're not eating enough right, they're not sleeping enough. So all those things start to add up because they go balls to the wall from the gate, and they don't have a proper program or proper understanding of training. So they overtrain and they can't recover. And they're like, I didn't see any results. Well, it's because you weren't doing the right things. So you want to have the right amount of volume so that way you can recover and have fun still. Less volume to drive big changes is more optimal than higher volume to drive big changes, right? You want to do, it's called minimal, what's the word? Minimal viable volume, something like that. I'm trying to remember the acronym. Minimum effective volume. There we go. So yeah, minimum effective volume is what I like to focus on a lot. You want to do the least and get the most change, right? Small tweaks, big change is my shit. So that's all we find. Lifestyle-wise, training-wise, nutrition-wise, all of it. So that way it doesn't feel intrusive. Do less, get more out of it through other forms of fatigue, strength, and progression. So we can do other things that will help us get stronger rather than just focusing on weight. So an optimal volume is around 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So that's kind of how I structure things. You can land anywhere in between depending on where you're at with nutrition and all those other things. So hypertrophy, again, progressive overload. Progressive overload is gradually increasing the weights, the reps, adjusting tempo, range of motion, ROM, less rest, longer isometric pause, meaning like you want to pause in the whole of a squat or pause for a bench press right above your chest. There are different phases of the movement that you can focus on to get stronger in that phase, and it will help you become stronger overall, right? Strength doesn't just mean, notice how I just didn't say add weight to the bar to get stronger, right? It doesn't mean just because obviously we would be pulling 700 pounds. I would be pulling 700 pounds by now if I was just focusing on that. So we want to focus on other areas for us to get stronger and build the aesthetic part of aesthetic and strength, right? We're not just trying to be strongmen here. So training frequency. There's the full body versus the upper lower splits, which is you work out your upper body, lower body, or the push pull legs, which is, you do a day of push workout, a day of pull workout, and a leg workout another day. So it's a 3-day split. And then the bro split, which is, you work out your arms one day, your chest one day, your back one day, something like that, right? I've tested all of them. So there's this meta-analysis. There's this study by Schoenfeld in 2016. Okay. Training muscle groups more frequently, 2 to 3 times per week, results in greater muscle hypertrophy, muscle growth, compared to training them once a week. So the bro split has been proven wrong. Okay, so that eliminates one. PPL kind of eliminates it because, you do push, pull legs, that's already 3 days. And then you can either, if you do 5 days or you do 6 days, then you do the minimum of 2 if you do 6 days for each muscle group. So that one is kind of halvesies, depending on volume. So full body or upper lower splits may be more effective for muscle growth than traditional bro splits. So obviously you see that full body, you train every muscle group every day of the week. Well, what's up, Miguel? How are you? Okay. And upper lower splits, meaning you train your upper body a couple times. So you go upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower if you want. And you're already hitting every body part or every muscle group 3 times per week, or 2 to 3 times per week minimum. There's another study by Bird in 2011, muscle protein synthesis. So MPS, I call it, spikes after training and stays elevated for up to 24 hours. This is very important when it comes to nutrition as well. Muscle protein synthesis spikes after training. So that's why you feel hungrier after training. So you want to have this is more nutrition, but you want to have your most nutritious meal, your most dense meal calorie-wise, a good amount of protein, carbs, fats, all the things to kind of help you recover, to kind of keep muscle protein synthesis up. So the main reason why we chose to do full body versus upper lower to keep spiking muscle protein synthesis and giving your muscles a reason to grow. The more that you spike the signal, the muscle building signal, you can also call it, the more that your body is going to try and keep up with recovery instead of just spiking and then dying off. So you want to stay in that, you want to give it a reason to grow. And that's when I mentioned earlier about basically metabolic stresses. Let me go back really quick. Where is it? It's back here somewhere. But metabolic stresses for training volume, right? Metabolic stresses on the muscles. Muscle protein synthesis is also a metabolic stress. It has to do with the metabolism. So let's go into strength. Strength, this is a lot of words, so don't be scared. Wow, I can't even say it. Neuromuscular adaptation, how the nervous system improves to muscular activation. So neuromuscular adaptation just means your nervous system and your muscular system, I don't know, your muscles working together in sync to adapt to new stimulus, meaning to adapt to the new weight to what you're giving it. So your body has to obviously adapt over time for it to get stronger. So it is the nervous system's ability to improve the recruitment of muscle fibers. So the longer you do this, the longer that your body is going to get used to training hard, training with intensity, training with intention, and all that. So for example, two people are pushing 1,000-pound boulder up a hill, for example. What does it matter? And it's hard as fuck. That's 500 pounds each person, right? So when you have more neuromuscular adaptation and you're recruiting more muscle fibers, you're recruiting more people, for example. So more recruitment is 10 people now instead of 2 pushing the 1,000-pound boulder. That's 100 pounds each. That's more doable, right? 20 people is 50 pounds per person, and so on. So your body learns to bring in more as you give it reason to. So you attain more muscle fibers through controlling weight, engaging your core, and just basic practice every time you train, right? You want to learn how to engage your core and control the weight, making sure that you're breathing properly and all those things. Maximal strength is the maximum force a muscle can produce in a single effort. So the maximal strength is the greatest amount of force that a muscle or muscle group can lift in a single rep, your 1 rep max. Not very many people do this type of programming. There's only like 2 or 3 people in the community that do this, but I want to work you up to train your 1 rep max to kind of just see how you do with strength. So everyone will get there eventually. Core stability is the importance of a strong core in strength training. So your core stability is the ability of the muscles of the torso to support your spine and maintain proper posture during a movement. So if you've ever had back pain, if you have sciatica where there's a little bit of nerve pain when you're sitting and it's above your butt cheek on either side next to your spine, that's sciatica. That means that you're not engaging your core properly and you don't have enough hip mobility and stuff like that. So we want to you want to improve that core stability by learning to brace your core, and I'll teach you, show you videos, and doing all the things so we can do that properly. A strong and stable core during heavy lifts prevents injury and improves motor recruitment, coordination, and balance. You won't need to work out your abs if you engage your core every single movement. I engage my core every single movement. I haven't worked on my abs in like 6 months. So for us, it's mainly focusing on engaging your core so you have a strong core, not just an aesthetic core. This is, again, aesthetics and strength. You want to have an aesthetic core? Well, start engaging it every single movement. Even when you're just like you're sitting down, engage your core so that way your posture looks good and feels good, so you're not just slouching over your desk or slouching while you're driving, stuff like that. Technique is proper form to maximize strength and minimize injury. So technique is a complementary skill learned with engaging your core. So obviously your core is called your core for a reason. If you learn to engage your core, technique will be complementarily improved because of that, if that makes sense. So your core is the core of your form. So phases. There's the eccentric. There's 3 phases, okay? So the eccentric is the first one. It's the most important one, I think. Eccentric phase involves the lengthening of the muscles under tension. So, for example, if you're doing a squat, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. In a deadlift, this is the phase where you lower the barbell back to the ground. You're lowering the barbell, so you're stretching your hamstrings. You're stretching your legs, your calves even maybe. In a squat, it would be when you are lowering the weight into the hole because you are stretching your glutes, you are stretching your quads. In a bench, it is when you're bringing the weight down to your chest, you are stretching your chest. So that is the whole phase. The isometric is the phase involving holding a muscle contraction without changing the muscle length, which means, now we use the deadlift again, this occurs at specific points where you maintain the static position, typically below the knees after you begin pulling. So from the floor to basically below your knees. If you hold that position, that is the isometric position. For squat, for example, it's literally just pausing in the hole, right? You come down, you sit in the hole. That's isometric because you're fully stretched, basically. Your muscles are fully stretched and you're holding kinetic energy. And for a bench, it's basically right above your chest, right? You bring down your eccentric, and you bring it down to your chest. You're in a fully stretched position and you're holding that. So there's always fully stretched positions that you want to hold for a little bit to kind of help you with that. Concentric. The concentric phase involves the shortening of muscles under tension. So this is just the completion of the movement, right? So since we were from in a deadlift, right? This is the phase where you lift the bar. So we went from eccentric is from the top down, you're lowering it, and then isometric is from the floor back up to your knee, and then the concentric is a lockout, basically. When you're locking out is a concentric. You can remember concentric as contraction, so that's how I remember it. And you're contracting the muscle, you're squeezing it. So all the phases have their strengths, but the one that affects muscle growth the most is the eccentric. Wow, I spelled that whole sentence incorrectly. Muscles are under greater tension. Muscles that are under more tension equal more micro tears, right? The whole point of being in the gym, building muscle, you want to create more micro tears to your muscles. So stretching it like a rubber band is going to create more micro tears. Instead of just moving the weight, you know, when people just fucking do this all the time, and you see people bouncing weight off their chest or just dive bombing into the hole of a squat, that's not what you want to do. That doesn't create as many micro tears, right? We're here to like optimize training and get the most out of the reps. So a 1 second eccentric versus a 3 second eccentric, you're getting 3 times as much growth, right? Think of I'll show you a couple videos in the end, but think of someone who's just dive bombing into a hole of a squat versus someone who's taking their time 3 seconds down. They're controlling the weight, they're creating more muscle recruitment, and they're getting much more micro tear. So much more, and they're obviously engaging their core because they have much more time to brace. More control and stabilization, and you're training your core and muscles to handle the weight instead of moving the weight. So we're handling the weight, we're controlling the weight, we're handling it instead of just moving it. This also allows for you to have less injury, right? When you control it, you're improving your muscles' ability to handle force. I spelled that incorrectly, and resist lengthening under load. So like, for example, you're in a hole of a squat. You now know where your max lengthening position is, and your body will start to build more muscle recruitment at that point, and it'll basically resist more lengthening under load as you get stronger, right? And then your body will start to get stronger as you go deeper or as you add more weight. So an example would be RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. You focus more on the eccentric compared to the normal deadlift, right? So for Romanian deadlifts, the goal of the movement is to not allow the barbell or the weight to touch the floor like a regular deadlift. So by nature, it's already eccentrically focused compared to a normal deadlift where you just rip the weight off the ground and contract. Tempo deadlifts would be like kind of what I tell people to do is you want to pull the weight and then slowly let it down. The isometric, what it does is it builds endurance by holding the static position and training your muscles to maintain tension for extended periods. Doing pause squats for like 5, 10, 20 seconds builds a lot of fucking endurance if you push yourself to it. So training that part of the movement is going to help you in other areas, especially with core stability. Learning to harness kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is just basically the energy that is created by something that is already in movement, if that makes sense. So for example, like, let's just take it from here. Kinetic energy, you're in a squat. You are going into the whole of a squat. That whole phase, the eccentric phase, you are creating kinetic energy. You are lengthening your muscles and basically strength, like pretend a rubber band, right? You are lengthening your muscles by stretching the rubber band. And now that rubber band now holds energy, right? If you let it go, like at the point where it's at full stretch position, that is now potential energy. So it goes from kinetic to potential. So you want to be able to learn to harness that energy instead of just wasting it, if that makes sense. Like your muscles are full of kinetic and potential energy when you learn to harness it and actually use it instead of just moving weight and pretending that they're not actually as strong. So anyway, and isometric also helps break sticking points like your pause deadlifts, pause bench, pause squat. Anything pause is the isometric. And the concentric is the power phase. So the lockout of all the movement. It is the max strength of the movement. So you're focusing on power and explosion. This builds more athletic, fast twitch muscles, which results in more muscle fibers. The main purpose is to increase the amount of weight lifted with speed. So lifting with acceleration over time equals more progressive overload. So an example would be your deadlift 1 rep max. Strictly a concentric from the floor to the lockout, right? You're not doing any concentric, or sorry, you're not doing any eccentric or isometric at all. You are just ripping and ripping and ripping. You are literally from the floor to the lockout. It is as fast. You want the acceleration and speed and the power when you're doing a 1 rep max compared to when you're doing 2 reps or 3 reps. There is now an eccentric involved, right? Because you have to lower the weight and you have to bring it back up. So there's no isometric involved unless you struggle with the lockout. So, like for example, if you struggle with the lockout in a deadlift, you're going really heavy and you can't lock out and like you're holding the weight, you're trying to like lock out and you're holding the weight right above your knees, then that's a lockout weakness. And there's a lot of other variations that we can do to help with that. So, and we're going to focus on phases a lot, like eccentrics, concentrics, and isometrics. So when you guys send me form videos, I'll tell you like focus more on the eccentric, go slower here, focus on doing this with this part of the movement. So as you start to send me form videos, the phases are going to be you're going to get very good at it. RP versus RIR. So this is intensity. And this is like I was saying, we bring it back to the new year, new me person that goes hard, balls to the wall out of the gate from day one, and they don't know how to modulate their intensity. So RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. And basically it is a intensity scale on 1 to 10 on how hard you think you're going. I'll explain this little graph in a little minute. But the key word here is perceived, right? And it's more used by the powerlifting community. So because we're using 1 rep maxes, right? So like a 1 rep max can feel like an RPE 9 or 10, and it's very different from the other scale that I'm going to talk about. So how hard does this set feel on a scale of 1 to 10, which is the perceived part, the how hard does it feel? A set of 1 to 3 reps can't be on the RIR scale if you're at RPE 5 to 7. That probably doesn't make a lot of sense right now, so I'll explain what RIR is right now. So we'll come back to that. RIR is reps in reserve. It sounds exactly what it says. More technical focused intensity scale for hypertrophy and bodybuilding, right? So how many reps do I have left in the tank? Like how many reps do I have left in reserve after this set? So if we're at 5 to 15 reps and we're focusing on, okay, I didn't finish that sentence. Beautiful. So anyway, we'll go back to this one. A set of 1 to 3 reps can be on the RIR scale because if you're at RPE 5 to 7, then it doesn't matter because RPE 5 to 7 means that it doesn't feel like a very hard set. right? You're at RPE 5. So if you look at this chart down here, it would be like a moderate to maybe hard. Versus if you were to take RIR on this scale, this would mean that you have 5 RIR would be 5 reps left in the tank, or 3 reps left in 7 reps left in the tank, because it's the inverse. So here's how I combine them. If you squat 4 to 6 reps at RPE 8 to 9, that is basically the same thing as RIR 1 to 2. So if we look at this chart, 8 to 9 is the same thing as 1 to 2. But you can see the descriptions are very different. The RIR size says 2 more reps, 3 more reps, and so on, right? RPE is, this is hard, very hard, moderately hard. Okay, that was okay. Light, very light, no effort. And max, meaning you're doing a 1 rep max. So I combine them every now and then, what week you're on, if you're like in a strength week or in a hypertrophy week, or if you're doing a deadlift, or if you're just doing bicep curls. Very different for very different exercises. But more often than not, I use RPE just because that's what I know the best, but I interchange them a lot. So if I say RPE 8 to 9, that can also mean that you have 1 to 2 reps left in the tank. Does that make sense? Because we're just subtracting from 10. That's all we're doing. So it's the same as RIR 1 to 2. So this means if you squat 225 pounds for 7 reps, and that's your absolute failure, that means that's your RPE 10 / RIR 0. And if you go and you squat the same weight at RPE 8 to 9, you're going to do it for 5 to 6 reps because you're just backing off weight. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. Like I just said, you can do the rep back off, which is you're taking the RPE 10, which is the 225 by 7, and then you go to RPE 8, which is 225 by 5. So you're just taking off 2 reps, or RPE 9. This is the RPE 9 version. Or you do the weight back off, which is when I like to use percentages. So RPE, RIR, and percentages are all the same kind of thing. It just depends on where you're at and how you feel that day. So RPE 10 is 100%, right? Maximal effort. RPE 8 is 80%. RPE 5 is 50%, so on. So if we look at 225, if we multiply that by 80%, that's 180 pounds instead. And then you can target the top end of the rep range instead of just the bottom. So like if you're feeling like shit that day, or if you didn't sleep that night, or you didn't eat enough, so on. If you're not feeling it and you can't make RPE 8 at 225, like 225 for 5 feels like shit, then you back off weight instead and you hit the top end of the rep range, which would be like 4-6 reps here, or probably more, depending on what your program says. Do you have any questions here? Because I know this can kind of be a lot for some people. So let me know in the chat if you guys have any questions. Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I know like this week especially was like my RP 8/9, and some of the stuff I've definitely been hitting that like 70 to 80% load. But one of the things that I've kind of run into, and it's mostly just my gym, is like there's not a free barbell where you could put your own weights onto it for certain movements. And I guess if you like, we're still hitting a high weight, but could you like put more emphasis on eccentric motion, like bicep curl, for example?
Yeah.
I know I'm doing the max 10 count. The max that they have there is 60 pounds. So what I've been really trying to do is like going for like 5 seconds as I go for the eccentric motion, and then I walk out trying to squeeze my triceps, and then on the way back up I try to go for like another, not 5 seconds, but like 3 seconds up.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's what I'm saying. Like especially if you don't have access to a lot of weight, focusing on the eccentric, the concentric, the isometric is going to be more important. And trying to get more out of the movement. So yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's where I've been like, all right, this is what I gotta deal with since Planet Fitness doesn't have like I said, those free weights like the bar for the barbell at least.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. So yeah, that's what I mean. You can definitely focus on, or you can do machines at that point to kind of max out the machine and just focus on um, engaging your core as much as you can. Right? You can engage your core anywhere. You're going to get
Mm-hmm.
more out of it doing it in a free weight compound compared to a machine, but you can still do it regardless. You know.
Okay, because yeah, they do have like the bicep curl machines and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And before I started with you guys, I know I was doing a little bit of that, but yeah, I guess if I want to like hit that higher RP, I'd hit the machine then.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can actually train to true failure on a machine if you really want to kind of
Okay.
test. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
good question. So let's go into biomechanics, the fun stuff. Form, basically. Biomechanics of a squat. So understanding the biomechanics of lifts is understanding that everyone's biomechanics are different. So most women have long femurs. So their squat looks much different compared to men. Or, people that are really tall have long arms, long legs. Their bench and their squat looks very different compared to short people. So everyone's biomechanics we have to optimize, not one form fits all type of thing, right? So squatting, your stance is your knee times your foot position times your hip mobility. It's a combination of all three. And I put a little arrow to this lady over here. So as you can see, her knees are pointed outwards, her toes are pointed outwards, and her hips are open. Right? This is our stance. We want to play with our stance over time to find what works best for you, what makes you feel the best, and obviously sending me form videos so we can optimize it. So sumo stance is exactly this. This is a sumo stance. A wider stance can help reduce the range of motion at the hip. So see how, most people would squat a little bit more ass to grass if her stance was closer, like a narrow shoulder width stance. This means that knees and knees and toes are pointed out and there's more glute engagement. So the wider that your legs are open, obviously your glutes get squeezed, and this helps with glute engagement. Hips open and mobile. Or we have a shoulder width stance, which is a normal stance and more for those that are, normal stance is more for those with shorter femurs. There we go. So as you can see here, she has long femurs, and you can see this little picture over here. This is a long torso and short femur. So long torso, short femur has no problem squatting kind of, ass to grass or with the upright torso. Short torso with a long femur, they have to bend over more. They have to have more forward lean, and they have like butt wink sometimes, or they hurt their back. So this used to be me because I wasn't optimizing my form and I was trying to I was just not squatting with proper form. So I've learned over time to work my hips, work my knee positioning, and work my toes to make sure that I don't get as much butt wink or back pain, or I don't lift with shitty form. And I'll show you guys those videos. This means that knees and toes are pointed out, but your hips are still slightly open and mobile. You still want to keep your hips always mobile, regardless of whatever you're doing. So, squatting biomechanics, squatting long femurs. Also, from now we're looking at from the torso up. So first we did stance, now we're doing bar positioning. There's two types of bar positioning. There's high bar, which is where the bar sits above your shoulders, like in the photo. So this is our high bar. This guy up here, basically sitting like right above his shoulders. And then low bar, which is the bar sits below your shoulders and on top of your traps and rear delts. This is what I do. This is where I find this is more powerlifting stance, but it's also from a physics standpoint. I should never mind. I'm going to get too deep if I need a diagram to explain that. Actually, you know what? We'll explain it with this little guy. So because high bar and low bar have dynamically different points at where they sit. That means if we treat the hips as a pivot point, right? If we look at this line down the middle, this is where the bar weight is. This is a force. And the hips are right here. If we treat your body as just like a spinning pendulum, technically, from a physics standpoint, this weight can spin in a circle, right, about this pivot point. And this, your torso and your femur length is the distance between the pivot point and the weight. Hoping that makes sense so far. So there's a distance, right? The bigger the distance, think of it as a hammer, right? A short hammer is not going to be able to swing as much, right? If you have a long ass hammer, like a broomstick with a weight at the end, it's going to swing very easily. So the distance matters a lot. And your hand and the is the pivot point, right? So we want to shorten that distance, right? From a physics standpoint, for you to lift the weight more optimally, shortening the distance between the pivot point and where the weight is sitting is going to help you lift optimally. Because if the bar is far away from the pivot point, what happens? Back pain, bad form, butt wink, so on, right? And every now and then it's okay. There's some people just work better with a little bit of butt wink and with certain bar positions because they can't do anything else. They can't help it. But anyway, so yeah. And you can see here, I don't do as much sumo stance, but I do low bar. My bar is sitting right below my traps, and I do normal, like a slightly wider than shoulder width, but I keep my knees and my toes pointing in the same direction. You can see that my toes are not caving in, or I mean, my knees are not caving in, and I'm opening up my hips. They're always at a 45 degree. Okay. There's a video here. And you guys might not be able to listen to the video, but yeah. Okay. So long femurs. Wait, what the hell? Okay. So you want to play around with these factors if you have long femurs. You want to play around with your wide stance, low bar squat, heeled squat shoes, or putting like little 5-pound plates under your shoes, under your heels, and mobility. Play around with these 4 variables to make sure that if you have long femurs, you're getting the most out of the movement. People with short femurs just kind of don't have much trouble. Hips and ankles, right? You want to focus on hips and ankles for mobility, all your joints, and obviously, I mean, your knees are going to be a complement to your hips and ankles. Your shoulders for low bar, making sure that you have enough shoulder mobility to do low bar. And form. Embrace forward lean with low bar. So let's go back to the photo here. Oops, what the fuck? You can see I have a little more forward lean in this photo down here of me squatting. I'm not standing straight up because, if the bar is sitting lower, it makes sense for you to have a little more forward lean. Otherwise, some people would, I've seen people stand straight up and down, and it's like crazy for me to see that. So embrace the lean that you naturally have, basically. You guys probably can't hear this. You guys can't hear this, can you?
No, I'm not hearing the audio.
So we'll skip that because that one's not as important. So let's just go into the next one. The other ones are more just visual. I'll show you other videos. So biomechanics of a deadlift. So why did this? Oh, I guess okay. So limbs that are most leveraged in deadlifts are arms and femur length, right? Your femur length and your arms, again, are the distance away from you and the bar and the pivot point. The pivot point is your hips. More often than not, your pivot point is always the hips or your shoulders with most movements. But kind of think about like pivot points when you start to work out in the next few days. Like, how can I shorten the pivot point so that this feels better? So anyway, I made this little graph, this cute little graph for you guys. So this can kind of help you to tell you which deadlift stance you should be. So if you have long femurs and long arms, try sumo. If you have long femurs and short arms, again, try sumo. If you have short femurs and long arms, try conventional. If you have short femurs and short arms, also try conventional. So you guys can take a screenshot of this if you want, going into the next few weeks, see what works better for you. So you guys can see here, short torso, short arms, short torso, or long torso, short arms, right? So we have a longer torso, shorter or short arms. This guy has really fucking long arms. So he has a short torso, long arms, and a long torso, long arms. Which do you guys think is going to have more struggle? Well, actually, let me not struggle. Which do you guys think, 1, 2, 3, or 4, is going to have the best form and the best time with trying to deadlift with conventional? Let's assume this is all conventional.
1.
Nice. Okay, what else? There's one more.
4.
Too many voices. What? One more time. Or put it in the chat, either way.
I was gonna say 4.
Okay, 4. Okay. I'm supposed to wait. Where are my circles? Okay, you guys are right. Well, so we have conventional, right? We want to look for short femurs and short arms and long arms. So let's look at for short femurs. We have short femurs just means if you have a long torso, that means you have short femurs, right? So anything with long torso would be short femurs. So 2 so far. And what else is long torso? 4. So 1, you can see someone said 1. I think both of you guys said 1. You guys can see that this person is going to have a hard time because 1, the back positioning is too high, right? This means that there's going to be a lot of, you're basically just pulling with your back and not your legs, which is when you want to switch. If you're short torso, that means you have long femurs. You want to switch to sumo. So the reason this person is having an easier time because they have a more quad involvement and back involvement, not just back. When there's more muscle recruitment for the deadlift, because it's a full body movement, not just a leg movement, you're going to have a better time. So let's look at the short torso, a long torso people, these two. And yeah, that's basically it. So the short torso, short arms, and the long torso, short arms are going to have a better time because their hip positioning is much lower. So if we draw a line, they're all much lower. So if we can look this diagram on the top right, long femurs, the hips sit higher with back that is more parallel to the ground, like number 1, right? Long femurs, your back is more parallel to the ground. And short femurs, you can pull your back down and barbell is very close to the shins and you're more upright. So 1 is probably going to have a little more back involvement and more back dominancy, if that's a word. And the other one's going to have more quad dominancy. This is kind of me. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of honestly like right here, depends. But my hips sit pretty much around here. My hips are not, or my femurs are not too long, but not too short. So perfecting the conventional. So a couple cues that you guys can use. Stance, shoulder width stance for your conventional. Your feet and knees are pointed upwards. This will engage your glutes from the bottom instead of your lower back. So, like I said, we can remember the squat screenshot that I had where my knees and toes were pointed outwards. If you can do this right now while you're sitting, like if you twist your toes outward, your glutes will naturally engage, right? It's the same thing with your arms. Like if you do this, your lats, your back right here will naturally engage. This is called torque. Torque, not twerk. So when you are engaging your glutes during a leg movement, it's going to help you engage. You'll actually feel your glutes instead of just any other muscle group outside of that. For your torso, you want to cue a big chest. A lot of people like to keep their chest down and look at the floor. You want to look upwards and just pop your chest as much as you can. This will help your chest be to face the wall as much as possible, so that way when you start pulling, you don't round your back. The whole point of a big chest is to keep your back neutral. With your hands, you want to break the bar, meaning you want to twist it into a U shape. Not literally, but like metaphorically, when you're trying to pull the bar from the floor, you're trying to break the bar. And this, again, like I just said, it helps you engage your lats, which is, this back muscle right here, which is a lot of people call your wings. So as you try and break the bar, this helps you engage your lats, and your back keeps your spine neutral, and it'll help you pull with better form and keep your back not rounded. And your eyesight and your neutral spine. A lot of people don't focus on eyesight, but where your eyes go, your head goes, and it's something very important. I notice when I deadlift and I look down, my upper back starts to round, which fucks up my entire form. If I deadlift and I pop my chest and I look up a little bit, but my head is neutral, then that helps me pull with much cleaner form. And I'm focused on pulling up, you know what I mean? So don't literally look up. You have to keep your spine neutral and your head neutral, but you can move your eyes wherever you want. So use your eyes as a cheat code almost to get to where you want to go for squat and deadlift, right? So if you're squatting and you're like struggling, don't look at the floor, look up. But don't literally look up with your head, look up with your eyes. Hips. If you have a big chest, your hips should be a little lower. If not, use the weight of the bar to balance yourself and sit back as much as possible. You'll feel like you're going to fall backwards, but you won't. So let me, I wish I could explain this. Go back. So basically, I'll show you guys 1 second. A crusty, dusty broom, right? If you guys are down here in a deadlift, you want to pull the bar and like sit back on your heels. You're going to feel like you're going to fall back, but you won't, because the weight is actually holding you to the ground, right? So like right here, I'm not sitting back, but as I start to sit back and I sit on my heels, my toes start to elevate, and it helps your hips sit more down, which is what you want to do. And you'll have better hip positioning, like I was trying to talk to you about earlier. So I remember from high school, teachers always told us to look slightly up. Yeah, look slightly up with your eyes though, not your head. Because then if you your head, your neck is still part of your spine. Remember that. So if you look up, you are compressing your spine in the top position, and that overall is not neutral. So that's why you want to just use your eyes. I looked up with a deadlift once, and I went to the hospital. So, and I was just pulling like regular 4 or 5. It was just regular 4 or 5 day. And then I looked up at the top, I locked out, and I was like, that's not normal. And the next few days, I had the worst sciatica I've ever had in my life. So look up with your eyes, por favor. Yep. Concentric to the floor and the lockout. So your hips and torso should move together. If your hips come up first, focus on driving your knees out more and use your glutes to push off the floor. So you can see here, the floor to the lockout is the most important because it's literally that's the deadlift. It's mainly just the concentric part. So remember that your hips and torso should move together, not just pulling your back with, pulling the weight with your back and then locking out. Imagine you're pushing the floor through, imagine you're pushing through the floor and the floor is a leg press. So that's a good cue that I like to use, imaginary, which is what helps me, is you're on a leg press machine, but you're deadlifting, obviously. And you are imagining that the floor is the leg press platform and you are pushing away. That helps cue better than pulling. You know what I mean? When you hear pull, you start to use your back. When you hear push, you start to use your quads, just psychologically, subconsciously. So the lockout, hyperextension. Do not do this. You can see this guy in the bottom, both of these guys. They are far past the parallel, right? You want to just be straight, standing up with your glutes squeezed. There's a point where you will fuck up your back by hyperextending. You get zero extra contraction and gains from this. This is how you get sciatica, hernias, bulge disc, unnecessary injuries. I've seen it happen, especially to people in here that don't send me form videos. They're like, my back hurts. I wonder why. So send me form videos so I can make sure that you're not hyperextending. But obviously, the key to not hyperextending is if you stand up straight and squeeze your glutes as hard as possible. That's the cue and muscle memory that you want to remember when you are doing the deadlift, when you are doing the squat, because you want to stop right when your glutes are squeezed. Anything past that, you're not getting anything. You're maybe getting like 5% extra contraction. So a cue is squeeze. Oh, I just said this. Squeeze your glutes hard, just standing normal. This is where you just want to stop during a squat or a deadlift or any glute, quad, hamstring movement. The eccentric. This is the part everyone misses and why form breaks down. You just let the weight drop. I used to do this. Control the motherfucking weight. If it's too heavy to control, you shouldn't be pulling it anyway. The message to my younger self. 3 seconds down. So here is a video. You guys can just watch the video. I'll pause it every now and then. This is my squat. 3 cues to squat deeper. So 1 would be toes out, knees out. You can see my toes out are pointed outward and my knees are pointed outward. Right? And breathe into your gut. You can see here, I'm getting prepared to like take a deep breath. The weight moves up. And I'm breathing into my gut, embracing my core before I do the next rep. And breathe through your mouth, not your nose. Right? You breathe into your gut, not into your lungs. So if you see here, I'll rewind it really quick. Ah, damn it. Rewind it. Okay. So you can see I'm taking a deep breath. And this quality is really shitty. Why is it so shitty? So yeah, no T's. Wow, what I keep seeing T's out. Toes out and knees out. Breathe into your gut, not into your mouth, and then long femurs, squat low bar, and embrace your forward lean. You can see I still have a little bit of forward lean here. Nothing like too crazy, just because I know that I'm doing low bar. And your bonus, squat with the barbell only and sit in the hole for 1 minute during your warm-up. So that'll be your isometric YouTube settings. Oh yeah, we're at 360p, but I have no other options. So GG. Well, anyway. Okay, so that's, get out of here. Okay, so that's squat. Move on. This is no eccentric. Okay, this is my old me. This is an old video. This is honestly from like 2015, 2014 or some shit like that. This is when I was in my powerlifting days. I have the knee sleeves, I have the wrist wraps, I have the belt, I have everything. You can see I'm just like bouncing in the hole. It's ugly. I'm just bouncing out of the hole. It's just weight and speed and acceleration, which is the purpose of powerlifting. But there is not a lot of muscle being built here. It's more just moving the weight, and that's what powerlifting is at its core. So that's not what we want to do, because I had a lot of injuries going into this. So I'm just fucking, yeah. And that was like 420 or some shit. So I was just squatting for a couple reps. So let's move on. Deadlift eccentric. This might be better if I don't widescreen it, maybe. Anyway. The deadlift eccentric. Control the negative on every rep. Of course, it lags when I'm trying to control it on the way down. If you guys want these videos, let me know. I'll send it to you. Hold the lockout for 2 to 3 seconds. So when you're at the top, hold it for a couple seconds, improve your grip and engage your core. And you want to be in the 4 to 8 rep range is optimal for strength and hypertrophy. So there's a sweet spot like I mentioned earlier, because hypertrophy is anywhere between 8 and 20, and strength is usually below. Like true strength is 1 to 3, and then the sweet spot 4 to 8. So as you can see here, I'll show you guys where I'm like engaging my core. You can see I'm going to try and break the bar. You can see my triceps are going to be tucked into my back, like they're going to turn like this. And I'm going to breathe with my mouth. You can see like I engaged everything right there before I pulled. I'll show you one more time. Oh my God, what the fuck? And control, control. There we go. The bed quality is a little better. Okay, see, so I'm going to take a deep breather right here. Wait, there you go, right there. Control. And we're going to show you one without control. No eccentric. Come on, Mike. This is old me. This is college. This is fucking 2015, I think. 2016. Who knows? I think the video has to load after a couple times. Jesus. Yep. Buffering. Wow. It's like we're in dial-up times. You see how I'm dropping the weight, if you can see fast enough. And like my arms are bouncing and the weight's bouncing because I'm just trying to move weight. That's when Filmora was a thing. So this is old. Yeah, this is better. See, there we go. Just dropping the weight. Kind of playing around with my toes and positioning. I'm not really stable. Moving my hips a lot. I was strong, but I wasn't optimizing for my hips. And then we're gonna do, oh my God. Sorry guys, one sec. Come on. Okay. And then deadlift PRs are okay to look a little ugly. This was my most memorable deadlift PR. This was from 2016. This is the first time I pulled 500. And it looks super ugly, but I watch it every now and then because everyone was watching and it was really fun. And all my friends were supporting me. So if you're PRing for a reason, it can be ugly. Don't expect it to be perfect. Yeah. And then bench. I can send you guys this video because it's obviously on Instagram and it's much more new compared to those other videos. But here's a powerlifting bench versus a bodybuilding bench. So one is more arched and one basically pauses above your chest. You guys can watch the video really quick. So the goal is to build, you want a deep breath before unracking, another deep breath before the rep, and then you have more arch in your back. And you're basically just doing this for a couple reps. So for powerlifting, making sure that your core is stable, pushing, pausing right above your sternum for about 2 to 3 seconds. Now you want to keep tension on the muscle for bodybuilding, obviously. Keep yourself 3 reps shy away from failure, and yeah, tension like that. Control on the way down. See how I'm kind of like controlling all the way down, not just letting the weight drop. Everything's controlled. I can probably go a little slower, yeah, but obviously as you get closer to failure, it gets harder to control. And that was the last rep, and she was hard. I almost failed that shit. So, and is that it? Yeah, that is it. Wow, we're 3 minutes over. Holy shit, that was long. All right, that was good. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Do you guys have any questions about anything? I know it was a lot. Obviously, I don't expect you to remember everything. Um, obviously, I'm going to teach you and give you feedback on your form videos as we start training more. So, but yeah, send me form videos. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask right now. Anyone?
Hey, Mike, it's Matt.
Yo, what's up, Matt?
Um, so one thing I remember from the bench press, and I know I can't do it with the smithing machine,
Mhm.
and I think that's part of like how you pointed out where I'm bending my wrist.
Yeah.
Is there's like when you're doing it in a traditional bench press, you can do kind of that row motion where you're lifting the weight off the rack and then bringing it more towards like the center upper part of your sternum there,
Hmm.
and then you like kind of row it back into the rack position. Is that fine to do? As long as if you're keeping your wrists straight and arms in and everything, but like I'm trying to remember how that's called, but yeah, it's like a rowing kind
Yeah.
of effect.
You mean like it's a like the bar path is a J shape?
Yes, yeah, because I'm so used to doing it that way. So like I'm adapting to the smithing machine, but yeah, I'm so used to being able to like do that kind of J-shaped pattern for bench pressing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, it really depends. Sometimes I don't really focus on pattern as much as I focus on the uh, the ability for me to like feel the contraction or feel the stretch, right? You want to
Okay.
feel the muscles instead of just going through it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I mean, for me, like I feel more engagement in my lat areas when I do that kind of motion,
yeah, then
and
yeah,
then like as I push up from the lower part into the J, it just feels like I can keep my wrist more stable.
okay, yeah. Send me videos. I mean, I'm sure the Smith machine doesn't allow you to do that much. So
No, I'm like I said, I'm hoping to use the Active Fit gym next month and find like a more free weight kind of style gym.
okay, that's cool. Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean the Smith machine's gonna help. It'll already have the path kind of built in when you're doing incline press. It's harder to feel it when you're doing bench press or just flat bench, but
Hmm.
don't focus on the path. I would just focus on where
The
you
form and movement.
and the control, and the path will come naturally.
Okay,
Right? It's kind of just a product of you actually performing it with correct form and tempo.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah, good question. Anyone else? Did this help? Do you guys like this? Do you want to see more of this? Matt raised his hand again. Oh, solid. Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
was trying to do the emotes.
emojis. That's cool. I didn't know that. What the hell? That's dope. How do you do that?
Or at least on Android, it's these three little dots, and then when you tap it, they'll be on the like top part.
What? I'm on my desktop. You guys are setting all the emojis. What the hell? I don't
I
see.
don't know about desktop yet.
That's crazy. Okay. I'll have to do this. Oh, that's crazy. What? I don't have that option. I just have a whiteboard and a couple other things. Yeah, that's it. That's lame. Thank you for the emojis. But if you guys like this, obviously we can do other topics about training. Uh, or I can do a nutrition one next time because I've been doing more nutrition, or I've been doing more mindset lately. And we have a mindset called tomorrow with Ash. So we're gonna get more mindset. So I can do a nutrition one. So that way we touch up on everything the next time we do this. But yeah. All right. I'll let you guys have your Sunday. Thanks for coming. I appreciate y'all. And if you have any questions, let me know. Do y'all's and I haven't seen invite for the mindset meeting yet. Okay. I have to invite a couple people to the mindset meeting. But for check-ins, ignore the link that's in your trainerize messages. Go to the link that's um, in Slack. I pinned it. You should be able to see it. If you don't see it, let me know and I'll send it to you. I'm trying to fix my whole Google Drive. I've been transferring everything this whole weekend. So, but yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and I will see you later. Andrew raised his hand. What's up, Andrew? Andrew, you raise your hand. Oh, accident. Okay, no worries. All right, brother. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day.